Hello, everyone. Welcome to this meeting of the South Kingstown Town Council. It is Tuesday, May 28th. The time is 7:30. Our first order of business is the pledge to the flag. Please rise and join us. Thank you. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Council President Collins.
Here.
Council Vice President DeCruz.
Here.
Councilwoman Kelso.
Here.
Councilman McAtee.
Here.
Councilman Veely.
Here.
All members present.
Thank you. Item 4 is the approval of minutes of previous meetings.
Motion to approve agenda item 4A and B.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries. Item 5 is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the item 5 consent agenda.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries as well. That brings us to 6, which is licenses. 6A is a resolution granting a victualling, holiday sales, and tourist accommodations licenses to Southern Rhode Island Hospitality, LLC, doing business as Fairfield by Marriott, South Kingstown, RI, Newport area. This is 3 Fairfield Way, Wakefield, Rhode Island, 02879, subject to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy and approval by the Communications Superintendent and Rhode Island Department of Health. The approval for 100 spaces and 343 persons. Applications by Kiri Gendreau, General Manager, if they're here, or whoever's here to speak on this issue is welcome to come up. And just state your name for the record, of course.
Good evening. My name is Mark Landry. I'm the principal of High Road Hospitality, which is the management company of the hotel.
Very good. Well, tell us about this big new addition to the community.
Well, one out on behalf of the owner and all my staff, we're really excited about this hotel. It's been a long construction period, but the hotel is really, really nice. You know, it looks great from the outside, and the hotel itself is a perfect balance, perfect product for new lodging accommodations here in South County. You mentioned it was 100 keys, has a small meeting room, really nice indoor swimming pool, fitness center, features the amenities of the Fairfield brand, including free Wi-Fi, great complimentary breakfast for hotel guests. And the exterior of the hotel is not prototypical for that brand, but it's all Fairfield inside. And we've received so many compliments on the exterior elevations of the hotel itself. It looks like county. And it's a great example of a win-win when the prototype itself needs to be modified because of the characteristics of the local community. You can really come up with that perfect balance and be where you need to be.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
When's the hotel scheduled to be open for operation?
We're targeting right now to be, what we call guest ready, about 2 weeks from today. That would be great.
Just a quick question. We're looking at 100 keys, you said, right? So, and I look at it, occupancy of 343. Is that per fire code, or is that the way the rooms are set up?
The way the rooms are set up, there's good flexibility in the hotel. A lot of rooms have double queens, a lot of king size beds. Some king rooms have pull-out sleep sofas.
Okay.
All the rooms are just it may be referred to as a suite, but it's just a bigger room. It's not a 2-room. There's no separate bedrooms or anything like that.
Great.
Do they have kitchens or?
No kitchens, but every room does have a small refrigerator and a microwave oven.
Okay.
But there's no open flame, there's no cooking or anything like that.
It looks nice, by the way.
So it looks, you can thank your planning board for that.
Any other questions? All right, do I hear a motion on 6A?
I'll make a motion to approve item 6A as presented.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good luck.
Luck.
Welcome.
It's a great spot.
Be invited to the grand opening.
Welcome to the community.
Thank you.
6B is a resolution granting a holiday sales license to Crops B&B LLC, doing business as Crops Beauty and Barber of 99 Fortin Road in Kingston, Rhode Island, subject to approval by the Rhode Island Division of Taxation. Application by Madeline Sulwin, member 2736 Independence Ave, Bronx.
Good evening.
Good evening. And just state your name for the record, please.
My name is Madeline Selwyn.
Welcome.
Thanks.
So tell us a bit about your business.
Sure. We're going to be a beauty and barber shop in the URI Kingston Emporium.
Any questions for Madeline?
Will your hours be?
I'm hoping to be open every day, 7 days a week from 9 to 9. Probably not in the beginning in the summer, but hopefully by September.
How many chairs will you have?
I'm going to have 5 chairs in the barber area, and then there's about a 100 square foot studio space in the back where I will be servicing women, and probably 1 or 2 chairs back there.
Any other questions? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve 6B.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good luck.
Thank you.
6C is a resolution granting a holiday sales license to Ocean State Job Lot, doing business as Ocean State Job Lot, of course. Number 127 on Kingstown Road, Wakefield, subject to approval by the Fire Chief, Communications Superintendent, and Rhode Island Division of Taxation. Application by Jennifer Fredette, Licensing Coordinator. Is Jennifer?
I'm Michael Shalafo. I'm the DM for that location.
Welcome.
Thank
you. So I think we're all very familiar with
Yeah.
Job Lot, of course, but feel free to tell us about the new store.
So it's similar to the other store, just a bigger footprint, better product selection, better shopping experience for the customer, improved parking. We already been perceived very well after the first weekend, so I imagine that's going to continue.
It has been packed.
There were a lot of cars.
Crazy. Very busy.
Questions?
Yeah. Any plans for the repurpose of the old store?
I don't know at this point.
Any other questions? All right, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item 6C.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And that brings us to item 7, communications. 7B is an invitation to council members to attend the South Kingstown High School graduation ceremony on June 14th, 2019 at the Ryan Center. We've received that and placed it on file. And I think we can all each take under advisement whether we can attend that. But I would think a motion to place this on file would be in order.
Make a motion to place 7B on file.
Second.
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries. 7F is a communication dated May 20th, 2019 from Christopher D. Comiskey regarding an appeal to the Zoning Board of Review concerning the approval process related to the recent subdivision of a property in Kingston. We've received it and placed it on file. I believe, do we have somebody? Is Charles here?
Mr. Comiskey is here tonight, if the council would like to hear from him.
I think so.
Good evening. My name is
Hello.
Chris Comiskey. I'm the author of the letter that you have in front of you. I'm not sure if you have the 30 some odd pages of exhibits that were included with
We
the-
do.
You did, okay. So the concern about this property, as the town manager has mentioned, this has quite a long history. And one of the concerns that I had with the development of this property is that we were the owners of the adjacent half a parcel. We always knew it was one half of a parcel. And we felt as though we went about it the right way through the planning department and correctly utilized the property as it was always intended. To give you some corrected dates, the subdivision of our property actually occurred in 2014, 2015. So it wasn't 10 years ago. This was relatively recent that we had done this. The parcel has always been in every deed noted as one half. You get the easterly half, I get the westerly half of this parcel. It's always been known that it's half a parcel. I'm just concerned, how do we go from a half of a parcel to a fully buildable parcel overnight?
Do you know the history on how or why it was separated that way?
So the predecessor to myself and the predecessor to the lot 2 over from me decided that they wanted a little more land. They purchased collectively the center parcel and split it in half in 1961. The lots that were separated each had under frontage, had 50 feet of road frontage, and under square footage, about 9,700 square feet of area on the lot. So the day they were created, they were substandard. You look like you wanted to chime in, so.
What is the square footage of the actual lot? I mean,
I think that's accurate. The only point that I was going to make is that since they predate the zoning ordinance, they wouldn't be substandard until the zoning ordinance set a standard. And by the Zoning Enabling Act, anything that predates is required to be allowed to be maintained unless you pass some ordinance that merges lots together, which you have, but it only merges some lots, not all lots. So that's the issue.
So there's a lot of confusion here as to why it happened on one side of a property line versus the other side of a property line. That's the root of my concern here. And I just don't want this to happen across town where people decide that, oh, half of a lot is now a buildable lot. And this just perpetuates into postage stamped lots across the town.
Yeah, I understand. And just to take us back, because we did discuss this a little bit in the work session before the regular session here, and apparently there may have been some misinterpretation when your case was before the zoning board. As we understand it, that the exception in this case is that it's an R10 zone with access to sewer. Does that answer the questions that you had about why it was different this time around, or?
Not really. I mean, we had the same legal counsel at the time. I'm not sure where we get a new legal interpretation from with, a 5-year span and a complete new direction.
I'm not sure that this came to legal counsel at that point, but the one thing that I would note is that, at least prospectively, if the concern is you don't want to have smaller lots, you could always amend your merger ordinance to eliminate the exception in the R10 zone, in which case any substandard lots in any zone that are owned in common ownership would be subject to the merger ordinance. But that's a decision that, if you decided you wanted to go that route, you could always amend the ordinance for that purpose.
I also think it's important for the council to know that we're not going back and sort of reevaluating the decision that was made in 2014-15, this is really only the case of the second half lot, as I explained in the work session prior. The concept of a half lot really was an interesting way for folks to talk about this divided lot. But as the council is aware, when property is divided, they become two smaller lots, not half lots for any legal purpose, even if the deeds describe them that way. How you describe land in a deed does not impact the zoning. The zoning ordinance is whole unto itself. It deals with single lots, not portions of lots.
But it may change things prospectively for Mr. Comiskey here, who has the other small substandard lot. So now he has the same rights as...
Save that he actually has developed
okay.
on or adjacent to that what we're referring to for convenience sake as the half lot. So no, on the ground conditions have changed.
I guess what I'm struggling with is just the confusion, I guess, behind, because an ordinance is an ordinance, and I guess it was the interpretation back then.
So again, Mr. Comiskey is the only one here in this room who was there at the time, so he's really the best reporter of what occurred. But if someone were to make an assertion to a government agency and the government agency pushes back and says, no, we think X, not Y, that's an answer that is subject to appeal. To the best of my reading of the record, there was no appeal of a decision that would have gotten us to the detailed analysis that's led to the different conclusion in the case currently before this town government.
And Mr. Comiskey can correct me if I'm wrong, but it probably was a case of you go into the town planning department, you say, I want to build a house, what do I need to do? And they say, here's the process for getting a subdivision. Whereas if another developer can come in and say, you get the same response, except they'll say, no, wait a minute, here's the zoning code that I want to go under, which is a different provision. So I think that's kind of the mechanics of how it works.
It does seem likely that we've got two different ways of pushing the button to develop these parcels. And the one resulted in a conclusion that didn't respect or regard what we're, again, for convenience sake, calling a half lot as developable. And the second way of pushing that button got to an analysis that said, yeah, you're right, that lot was never merged and retained the rights to be developed.
And one of the main concerns is it was a recent subdivision. I would have expected that consideration would have been put in some research, and this was a prior decision that's an identical parcel. And different outcomes.
And again, as I explained to the council during work session, we also see the value in consistent interpretations of the zoning ordinance. However, when someone is insisting on a right that is clearly delineated in the ordinance, consistency has to fall to correctness.
Yes, so I'm sure that might not be a satisfactory answer, but I think this is one of those circumstances where the squeaky wheel got the grease, and it seems as though the current interpretation is the correct interpretation.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we potentially direct the planning department to take another look or dive deeper into the potential for revising the merger ordinance so that we have consistency in interpretation going forward?
Whatever the pleasure of the council is, of course, we'll follow up.
So what exactly are we going to be directing the...
I mean, there's two sides to that too. So it could cause problems for other folks if you start merging lots automatically. But at the same time, I think we need to make sure we're clear on what is supposed to happen. I would be in support of having the planning department look at that.
If I might suggest, what we can do without getting into a situation where the council's voting on an item not on the agenda, let me take this back. We'll produce a report on the number of parcels likely to be impacted and the consequences of a more aggressive merger provision in the ordinance.
And perhaps, Rob, find a way to standardize the information that's given to builders or developers coming in, so the mixed message isn't there, I guess, is my biggest concern, is who comes to the office gets the same message.
We really do strive for consistency. In this particular case, you've got different staff at a different period of time. It may have been 5 years and not 10 years, but it was still an entirely different planning staff than we had this year. And it was a novel question for the folks here. They had never encountered the question before as planners in this department. We do strive for consistency, and I'm pretty convinced that no one in the planning department is giving arbitrary or capricious or inconsistent advice on a regular basis. I will say that so much depends upon how the question is asked. We actually had a gentleman come up earlier. His daughter was the barbershop applicant, and he came up saying, "My daughter is here to speak to the Chamber of Commerce." And we almost sent him over to the Chamber of Commerce because he came at the question in a different way. So much depends on how a question is phrased, but we do strive for consistency.
And I believe that. I just feel 10 years from now, I don't want another glitch, another fly in the ointment, and someone coming back and saying 5 years ago or 10 years ago, this happened, and now this happened. So how do we get that information standardized?
I will point out for the council's information that in both cases, additional building lots were created. They were just created through different paths. One was less expensive, frankly, than the other. And the result was two houses on what previously had been a lot and a half in both cases.
Thank you.
Any idea what the plans are for that particular lot? Is it just another single-family home, or?
I believe a foundation permit has been issued.
The builder is planning to house his daughter for a student rental.
I'll make a motion to put Communication 7F on file.
Do I hear a second? I'll second that motion. Any discussion?
I think we'd also like to see the report the town manager had offered to provide to the council.
If the council wants to refer that to the manager and planning department, we'll handle that.
I'll amend my motion to say that.
Second.
So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries. And that brings us to item 8, which is comments from interested citizens. So this is community's opportunity to get up, tell us what's on your mind. Just please state your name for the record.
Good evening, Bill Forbes. On behalf of my buddy and I, with the honor that was bestowed on us by the VFW, I publicly want to thank them, everyone that came out, including all you folks up there. It was a tremendous honor, and I was very humbled. Placing the wreath really got to me. And I just like the people of this town. I looked out over the crowd, and there weren't, how faces have changed. She can tell you, she grew up here like I did. And, we got 3 Medal of Honor winners in this town that enlisted from this town. And I think that is beautiful. And again, thank you all, and especially the guys across the street at that VFW hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you.
Of course, Mr. Forbes got to serve as one of the Grand Marshals for the parade yesterday, and thank you for your service. Really.
Along with Mr. Ellsworth, right?
That's right.
Hi, I'm Deb Bergner, live in Matunic. For me, I think things continue to be troublesome both for the town council and the school committee regarding issues of transparency. I learned last week on social media, I put it on social media when I learned about an upcoming work session meeting at the planning board where there'd be some condos built in Matunic. I use those really cool maps that are out, those GIS maps, and I found the lot, and the lot is on Holden Road and Matunic Beach Road, and it's a long, skinny 5-acre parcel, and there are going to be 20 condos there, 25% affordable housing. It's kind of a interesting project, but I think it's creating a lot of controversy. Again, I feel like that's got dropped on Thursday into the public domain, and there's a lot of strong feelings about what should go there, if that should go there, and what that project should ultimately look like. I have some concerns because of the way that the affordable housing may be laid out. I think affordable housing is important and necessary. However, I think that we've learned, or we're hearing, and I'm still researching this, that a developer did a project in town and was granted some exceptions due to the inclusion of affordable housing, and then at the end of the project came back to the planning board and said, I can't afford to build this last piece. I won't build this last piece of property and sell at 80% below 80% market value, and now they're going to sell that house at 120% above market value. So essentially, the developer at that point got all the incentives and is essentially for affordable housing, and now is going back on that. So now we have another project where they could do the same thing. We're going to promise all these things, and yet at the end of the project, not deliver what we really need, which is affordable housing. So I'm concerned that we get a week's notice for information on this. The public's very concerned, and I just want to bring this to your attention that I think things in the community are still troublesome because there's a lot of misinformation, there's not enough information, people are talking about things, and I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. If there are no other comments from the public, are there any comments up at the table?
In regards to the last speaker, I think being in the real estate business, I've seen it where some folks take advantage of the affordable housing. So I think we just need to be extra careful of that. And what I mean by that, I'm not even talking about builders, I'm talking about consumers. It's the way they measure, it's not wealth, it's income-based, I think sometimes, or usually. So if you've sold your house and you've made X number of dollars, but you put it in a retirement account, they're not looking at those numbers. So those are the things that I think are troubling, and I've seen it happen, in places that are, $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, where people are buying houses for a lot less.
Any other comments up at the table? All right. Well, I'll just remark that I think that was one of the most moving Memorial Day parades and ceremonies that I've had the pleasure of taking part in. Definitely a big part of that was seeing Billy there next to us. So thank all the vets for their service, And hopefully we're all, taking this opportunity to remember those who have sacrificed so much, the families and the people who have, perished themselves.
Could I add one last thing to that, being that it was our 150th as well? I have never seen a crowd like that line the streets at any parade that I've been at in this town. So I think that was a true testament. Granted, the weather was great, but people could have stayed home, but a lot of people showed up, and people were everywhere that day. And I think in the future we could also do a better job of letting the general public know about the ceremony afterwards. That would be great.
We're all there to see Billy,
That's right. All right. Well, very good. Town manager's report.
Great. I'm going to keep this brief tonight. First, I do want to address the issue of transparency because it's something we've been striving to improve in Town Hall. And I'd like to remind the public that if you have questions, if you're hearing of anything that is of concern to you, just pick up the phone and give us a call or email us. We are, in fact, going to provide you the best information we've got. We're going to give you all of the information that we can give you. In terms of schedules and public notices, they're sort of rigid. The notice for this Thursday's work session went out last Thursday. That's the mechanism for providing notice of that work session. If you've heard about something before that, if you haven't seen a notice, by all means, please feel free to just pick up the phone and call Town Hall. We'll research, we'll do whatever we can to make sure that you've got access to the best information we've got at any point in time. We don't want folks to feel that there are any secret deals going on in Town Hall. It's not happening, and if there's anything we can do to assuage fears or concerns folks have, we're happy to have those conversations. This is a very preliminary, I will say about this project, a very preliminary phase in the application. It'll be discussed by the planning board in a work session, which is open to the public. The public can come. It has been the chairwoman's tradition, if not requirement, that she hear from or allow the board to hear from the public at those hearings. I can't speak for her, but I know that in the past she has tried to find the time to do that. I also know that the planning board has a very full agenda this Thursday, so how they're going to be able to manage public comments, I can't tell you. But I know that the public is welcome in the room, and to the extent that she's able to do so, I know that the chairwoman tries to accommodate public comments and concerns. For the council's information, we are in the process of scheduling interviews for a new finance director. And the big thing that has taken a lot of our time this past week is we've been working with the chairman of the school building committee and member of the school building committee, Brian DeCruz, Councilman DeCruz, and Councilwoman Kelso, and the entire school building committee to prepare answers to questions that had been posed by the school committee on the feasibility of constructing a new high school. I'd be happy to answer questions. I know the council has received those answers over the last day. I believe you would have received them last night. The bottom line is the committee was able to look at two sites that the town already owns, the Curtis Corner site and the Broad Rock site. The Curtis Corner site, the main idea, the principal thought about how you would develop would be to put a high school up behind where Curtis Corner is, sort of behind the building between Curtis Corner and South Road School. The cost of that project was really just prohibitive. RGB estimated the total cost to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $152 million. It would have required extension of the sewers. The sewer service, the main in Curtis Corner, would have to be upgraded to accommodate a new high school. It just did not seem like a really viable option.
Rob, can I just, maybe I'm wrong, but 152, I believe, was for the 7 to 12 option. Was that correct?
Is that, thank you.
Just want to be clear.
Okay.
It was an idea that
123 for
123 with
the 9 through 12.
yeah, there was an idea that was floated by the school committee that they wanted to look at what a 7th to 12th grade school would look like, and that's where the 152 came from.
Nonetheless, the 9 to 12 was still in excess of $100 million and just did not seem financially viable. The Broad Rock concept was financially more interesting. RGB estimated that the high school could be that the middle school could be added to and converted to high school use for about $88 million. However, the committee spent a good deal of time talking about the road infrastructure at Broad Rock and concluded that there really didn't seem to be a viable way to get a second means of access and egress into that site. So $88 million would have expanded the building, would have converted Curtis Corner to a full-service, town-wide middle school, but would not, that $88 million would not have addressed road infrastructure improvements. And while we did not engage a traffic engineer, we did talk to the town engineer. We spoke through RGB to a traffic expert, and everybody's gut feeling was there's not a path. There's just not a way to get from anywhere else to the Broad Rock site without impacting significantly the neighborhood adjacent to the middle school now. So the report that went to the school building committee essentially said that. Curtis Corner is just too expensive and Broad Rock is just inaccessible.
The only thing I would add to that is that we did talk about possibly trying to do a traffic study, but it was going to take a month to get that done. And that was a response, I think someone from the school committee had asked RGB in an email recently about that question, and the response was about another month to do that, and that would significantly affect the Stage 2 application that we currently have in place.
And that's the manager's report.
Okay, thank you. And that brings us to the town solicitor's report. If there's- There. Oh, yeah.
Rob, in regard to the plot of land next to the hospital, the lower hospital baseball field,
Yes.
I'd like to suggest that the town manager provide a report detailing the barriers as to whether the town intends to sell or lease, or the barriers within there that are causing us to not have the ability to do so. I know you highlighted a lot of those points at the last meeting, but I think a written report from you to the council would be thorough for us to further evaluate, and
happy to do it.
With assistance of the town solicitor too, as to any legal implications or research that would need to be added, that would be suffice as well.
Happy to do it. I will summarize for the council again the facts that are going to be in that report. The parcel of land adjacent to the town, or adjacent to the hospital known as Town Farm Park, was the subject of a National Park Service grant in, I believe it was 1976, for $3,500. The restriction that came with that grant was that you will maintain the property for park use in perpetuity. The National Park Service uses its grant monies to secure guarantees that parkland will be made available or remain parkland forever. The restriction not only affects the town of South Kingstown, but it affects the eligibility of the state of Rhode Island for National Park Service. Should we and others be found to be in default, and if the National Park Service were to decide that that's a big deal, they have the legal authority to say that the state of Rhode Island no longer gets National Park Service money, and we subsequently do not get National Park Service money because the state DEM does not have money available. A representative from the hospital, Terry Murphy and John Schock and I met with a representative from DEM, the director of the Office of Planning for DEM, on Friday, and she reiterated, this is no small potatoes. You guys can't get rid of this parcel until we get permission from the National Park Service to do so. She alluded to a 5-year time frame for getting that permission. We pushed her on that, and I think that we've got a plan for moving that a lot faster than 5 years. But the bottom line here is we made a promise to the federal government that we would preserve land as parkland. Now, whether that was a wise promise for us to make is a question that we can sort of ask ourselves. But the promise was made, the commitment is there, and the national government will hold us to it. If we are found to have deviated from that commitment, the National Park Service can, and the Department of Interior can refrain from giving funding to the state of Rhode Island. The state of Rhode Island is fully aware of our situation and is saying, we're watching you. They're also saying that they're more than willing to work with us to put together an application to make sure that we can move as quickly as possible. Terry Murphy and John and I are working on putting together an application. We promised a turnaround of 2 weeks. I will also say that we have spoken to the hospital about other strategies that may help us move the process along as quickly as possible. However, it's a regulatory process. It's not a legislative process. It's not a process that we can hope for legislative relief from. When asked about that specifically, the director from DEM said, yeah, lots of folks have tried a legislative workaround. It doesn't work. This is a strongly regarded, well-established regulatory regime. We're in a tough box. That having been said, the town's commitment is to, one, preserving and, in fact, if we can, expanding our park holdings and making sure that our park holdings are adequate for the needs of the community today. Not the needs of the community in 1976, but the needs of the community today. We've talked about working with the hospital and DEM to do, and the only way you can get out from under the, well, there's actually 2 ways to get out from under the restriction. One is a conversion. You are given land of equal value for park purposes somewhere else in town. That's the most likely path to success. We've spoken to the hospital about a parcel that we think might be an appropriate exchange parcel, and we've got to figure out how to get them control of a parcel that they can then give to us so that we can give that to the National Park Service as a commitment to replace the commitment that was made in 1976. The other way to receive relief, which I really don't want to go into in too much detail because I don't think it's helpful to us, you can seek to have restrictions completely removed. It's a harder lift, and you have to come to the court with clean hands. My concern there is that we're not as strong in that arena as we ought to be. And I can go into more detail about that if council would like, but suffice it to say, we just have not got a long enough, good enough history with the preservation of Town Farm Park to pursue that path, in my view. We'll put that to paper. In fact, we'll take the transcript and we'll put it to paper.
Thank you. All right, any other questions for Rob? All right. I don't believe we have any appointments tonight, so that brings us to item 12, which is new business. 12C is a resolution adopting a proclamation honoring Lance E. Whaley for rescue efforts during a recent medical emergency. Lance, if you want to come forward and suffer the praise. And it reads thus, Whereas on Thursday, April 4th, 2019, Lance Whaley, Union Fire District Assistant Chief, responded to a dispatch to answer a report of an adult male who was unresponsive in a vehicle on the ramp leading to the northbound lanes of Route 1 on Salt Pond Road. And whereas he recognized upon his arrival that the man was unresponsive in the front seat of the vehicle, an updated dispatch with critical information. And whereas he removed the patient from the vehicle after ascertaining the patient was apneic and pulseless, placed the patient on the grass and provided cardiopulmonary resuscitation, or CPR, after applying an automatic external defibrillator. Subsequently defibrillating the patient and continuing CPR. And whereas the South Kingstown Emergency Medical Services paramedics arrived and within minutes the patient had return of spontaneous circulation and was transported to South County Hospital. And whereas Assistant Chief Whaley's rapid intervention, including providing immediate skillful CPR and delivery of defibrillation from the AED, were critical links in the chain of survival which were instrumental to the positive outcome of this case. Now, therefore, we, the Town Council of the Town of South Kingstown, hereby commend Assistant Chief Lance Whaley for his quick action and thank him on behalf of all the residents of South Kingstown.
Lance, would you like to say anything?
Man of not many words. I just performed a small part of saving this man's life. The EMS division, the police, the Union Fire District all came together and came out with a very successful save. But I just did a little bit, just doing my job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And do I hear a motion on that item?
Before we make the motion really quick, I just wanted to say that Union Fire District is a really important, integral part of our town. There's a lot of volunteers that don't get credit. Not that they're looking for credit, but I think should be shown more appreciation. The other thing I wanted to say is that Lance is one of the CPR first aid instructors. I actually took his class more than once, and he does a great job. And if more people would get involved with the Union Fire District, or even taking the CPR classes that we have, those are open to the public, it would be good for the entire community.
Well said.
Motion to approve agenda item 12C. Thank you, Lance.
Second.
So moved. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that takes us to item D. Oh,
Mr. President, the
Chief Pinch.
chief of the Union Fire District would like to sort of echo, I think, the council's.
Yes, Chief Steve Pinch, Union Fire District. I just wanted to take the opportunity to again recognize Lance. The people of the town of South Kingston are very fortunate to have Lance in town. He's always at the right place at the right time. We know in the Union Fire District all the good things that Lance does on a day in and day out basis. Some of the residents may not, but when you read this story, it's one of the things that Lance does pretty daily. But this is one of the bigger ones. I've spent a lot of time with Lance over the years, and I know all the great things he can do. We've been through a lot of situations together, but we're all proud of his accomplishments. And this is very exceptional. And like you said, we appreciate what he does every day, and the citizens are very lucky that he's in town every day around when they need him. And we want to give him our congratulations as well. Lance is a man that doesn't like a lot of recognition, so we didn't want to do one of our own, so we kind of piggyback with you guys. Thanks for letting us come up. So I like to call Lance up again. We have a special accommodation for Lance, Assistant Chief Lance Whaley, for his actions on April 4th. And I have an email from the wife of the man that Lance saved, and one of the things that stood out to me in the email was, she says, I'm not sure who arrived, but first a pickup truck arrived with a man who began to save my husband's life. This is the man right here, so good job. So I have, Lance, another certificate for you. And this pin that should be worn on your uniform. Nice. Congratulations.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you. Thanks for letting me come up tonight.
Oh, thank you, Chief. All right. And item D is a resolution adopting the 2019 South Kingstown Hazard Mitigation Plan update. As follows. Whereas the town of South Kingstown recognizes exposure to natural hazards that increase the risk to life, property, environment within our community, and whereas proactive mitigation of known hazards before a disaster event can reduce or eliminate long-term risk to life and property, and whereas the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000 established new requirements for pre- and post-disaster hazard mitigation programs, and whereas the 2019 plan identifies mitigation goals and actions to reduce or eliminate long-term risk to people and property in South Kingstown from impacts of future hazards and disasters, and whereas adoption by the Town Council demonstrates their commitment to hazard mitigation and achieving goals outlined in the 2019 South Kingstown Hazard Mitigation Plan update, now therefore be it resolved that the Town of South Kingstown 1. Adopts in its entirety the 2019 South Kingstown Hazard Mitigation Plan update as the jurisdiction's natural hazard mitigation plan and resolves to execute the actions identified in the plan that pertain to this jurisdiction. 2. Will use the adopted and approved portions of the plan to guide pre- and post-disaster mitigation of the hazards identified. 3. Will coordinate the strategies identified in the plan with other planning programs and mechanisms under its jurisdictional authority. 4. Will continue its support of the Hazard Mitigation Committee as described within the plan. 5. Will help to promote and support the mitigation successes of all participants in this plan. 6. Will incorporate mitigation planning as an integral component of government and partner operations. And 7. Will provide an update of the plan every 5 years. Anything to add on this from?
We could bring someone up from planning. Have we got Chelsea and or Kayla who want to come up and describe what this is going to do for us?
Good evening. I wasn't really prepared to come up and talk to you, but you know I always have something to say. So this, as you know, is the Hazard Mitigation Plan update. You've seen it already. You had a public hearing on it about 6 weeks ago or so. After you reviewed it, it went off to the Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency. They reviewed it, provided minimal comments, sent it off to FEMA, also reviewed it, provided some minimal comments, and now you have it again before you for official adoption. Once you officially adopt the plan, it will be resent to FEMA so that they can officially approve the plan. Their email back to us said that it was approvable, which is bureaucrat speak, really. And then once it's approved, we become eligible for FEMA's related funding programs. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any questions on this one? All right, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve item 12D.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries. And that brings us to the end of the agenda tonight. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And that motion carries. It is 8:22.
Stay tonight.
Huh? Did you? They stay tonight?
They stay tonight.
Computers stay tonight. What's that? The computers stay here tonight.